The moon hung low in the ink-black sky, its feeble light barely managing to penetrate the thick canopy of gnarled branches overhead. I treaded cautiously through the forest, the uneven ground beneath my boots giving off an unsettling symphony of creaks and crunches. Shadows danced on the periphery of my vision, casting eerie shapes that seemed to slink away whenever I turned to look. The silence of the night was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures in the underbrush. My heart thudded in my chest like a distant drum, its rhythm seemingly mimicking the pulse of the forest itself. Despite the chill in the air, beads of sweat formed on my forehead, the fear creeping in with every step. As I ventured deeper into the woods, the trees closed in, their twisted limbs intertwining like skeletal fingers reaching out for an unsuspecting intruder. The only path available seemed to wind and twist without rhyme or reason, like a malevolent force guiding me deeper into the heart of darkness. My breath caught in my throat as I stumbled upon an ancient, dilapidated graveyard, the weathered headstones standing like silent sentinels beneath the ghostly glow of the moon. A cold wind whispered through the gravestones, carrying with it the distant murmur of unintelligible voices. I quickened my pace, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end as the spectral echoes reverberated around me. I tried to convince myself that it was just the wind playing tricks on my imagination, but the forest seemed to come alive with unseen eyes watching my every move. As I pressed on, a flicker of light ahead caught my attention. A dilapidated cabin materialized from the darkness, its windows shattered and door hanging loosely on its hinges. My curiosity overcame my trepidation, and against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The air inside was thick with dust, and the creaking floorboards protested my intrusion. I stumbled upon a room adorned with decaying furniture, the remnants of a life long gone. My eyes fixated on a cracked mirror hanging askew on the wall, and as I approached, the reflection staring back at me seemed distorted, as if the very fabric of reality had unraveled. A guttural growl echoed through the cabin, and I turned to find the shadows in the corners of the room converging into a shapeless mass. Panic seized me as the walls seemed to close in, the air thickening with malevolence. A haunting whisper echoed through the cabin, revealing secrets that chilled me to the bone. Desperation fueled my escape, and I burst out into the forest once more, the twisted trees now casting elongated shadows that seemed to writhe with unnatural life. The path ahead became a labyrinth of uncertainty, each turn leading me deeper into the abyss. I could feel the eyes of unseen entities upon me, their malevolent gaze piercing through the veil of darkness. The very ground beneath me seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, as if the forest itself was alive and hungry. Just as despair threatened to engulf me, I stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an ethereal light. In its center stood an ancient gnarled tree, its branches reaching skyward like skeletal arms. A sense of foreboding gripped me as I realized the clearing was not a sanctuary, but a stage for a nightmarish revelation. The tree's branches contorted and twisted, forming grotesque shapes that resembled the faces of long-forgotten souls. Whispers emanated from the depths of the forest, revealing the tales of those who had met their demise in this cursed place. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, and I turned to confront the inevitable. The forest had claimed me, entwining my fate with its own. As the whispers grew louder and the shadows closed in, the line between the living and the dead blurred into a nightmarish tapestry. And in that forsaken forest, I became just another chapter in its sinister history, lost to the eternal darkness that lurked beneath the twisted canopy. When I was younger, I used to relish the idea of solitary walks through the serene embrace of the forest. The rustling leaves and the symphony of chirping crickets were my companions, and the moonlit path beneath the towering trees felt like a secret passage into the heart of nature. Little did I know, one fateful night would shatter the tranquility I once associated with those moonlit strolls. The air was thick with a tangible sense of unease as I ventured into the familiar woods. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow that danced on the twisted branches overhead. The forest seemed different, as if it had aged alongside me, harboring secrets that waited to be unearthed. The usual symphony of nocturnal sounds had faded, leaving behind an unsettling silence that sent shivers down my spine. A gnawing feeling of being watched settled over me, amplifying the crunch of my footsteps on the uneven forest floor. The path ahead blurred into obscurity, and an oppressive darkness clawed at the edges of my vision. Despite the urge to turn back, an unseen force propelled me forward, deeper into the labyrinth of shadows. As I navigated the winding trails, the trees closed in, their skeletal branches intertwining like skeletal fingers conspiring against my presence. A sense of isolation enveloped me, the moonlight unable to penetrate the thick canopy above. The rustling leaves whispered secrets, and the once familiar terrain transformed into a maze of uncertainty. A distant sound echoed through the stillness, a low, guttural growl that froze the blood in my veins. My gaze darted nervously from side to side, searching for the source, but the forest kept its secrets well guarded. Anxiety gnawed at the edges of my consciousness, and every shadow seemed to be writhed with unseen malevolence. As I rounded a bend, the moon momentarily unveiled the clearing, revealing an ancient, dilapidated mansion nestled in the heart of the forest. Its windows were shattered, and the skeletal remains of the structure seemed to whisper tales of a forgotten past. The air around the mansion hung heavy with the weight of centuries, and an inexplicable compulsion urged me to explore its decaying halls. The creaking floorboards protested my intrusion as I stepped inside, and the air within the mansion seemed to carry the weight of countless memories. Flickering candlelight illuminated faded portraits lining the walls, each face frozen in a twisted expression of torment. The oppressive atmosphere became palpable, and the temperature dropped as if the very essence of the mansion recoiled from my presence. A chilling wind whispered through the corridors, extinguishing the feeble candle flames. Panic clawed at my throat as shadows danced on the walls, assuming grotesque shapes that mirrored the tortured faces in the portraits. Whispers of forgotten souls reverberated through the mansion, recounting tales of despair that sent shivers down my spine. Just as I considered fleeing the haunted mansion, a figure emerged from the darkness, an ethereal specter with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through the fabric of reality. It beckoned me with an outstretched hand, and an otherworldly voice echoed in my mind, revealing the tragic tale of the mansion's former inhabitants. I stumbled back, my heart pounding, as the specter dissolved into the shadows. The mansion seemed to crumble around me, and the air itself became suffocating. With a surge of terror, I fled from the haunted halls, the forest swallowing me once more into its embrace. The moon hung low as I stumbled out of the woods, my senses overwhelmed by the harrowing experience. The forest, once my sanctuary, had unveiled its darkest secrets, leaving me with a haunting realization. I was but a fleeting visitor in a realm that belonged to the shadows and the tortured souls that lingered within. The dense foliage of the ancient forest loomed overhead as I ventured into the heart of the shadows. A thick mist clung to the ground, weaving through the twisted branches like ghostly fingers. The moon's feeble glow fought to pierce the veil, casting an ethereal glow upon the damp, moss-covered ground. I moved cautiously, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of fallen leaves that whispered tales of forgotten footsteps. An eerie stillness gripped the air, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the distant creak of branches swaying in an unseen breeze. The oppressive darkness seemed to swallow the very essence of the forest, and a creeping sense of dread settled deep within my bones. The path ahead meandered through the trees, twisting and turning in a sinister dance that distorted my senses. The gnarled trunks of ancient oaks stood like sentinels, their contorted limbs casting grotesque shadows that seemed to writhe with a life of their own. An inexplicable chill slithered down my spine as the forest enveloped me in its silent malevolence. As I continued my journey, the mist thickened, obscuring my vision and creating an otherworldly landscape where reality and illusion merged into a disconcerting tapestry. Shapes moved in the periphery of my vision, elusive specters that faded away whenever I tried to focus on them. The forest seemed to be alive with unseen entities, watching and waiting. A faint sound echoed through the trees, a distant whisper that seemed to carry the weight of ancient secrets. I strained to discern the words, my ears catching fragmented phrases that hinted at a spectral lament. The whispers intensified, weaving a tale of a long-forgotten tragedy that stained the very soil beneath my feet. Suddenly, the mist parted, revealing a clearing bathed in an unnatural silvery light. In the center stood a gnarled tree, its branches contorted into grotesque shapes. Hanging from the branches were ethereal orbs, each emitting a soft, ghostly glow. The air pulsated with an otherworldly energy, and an irresistible pull urged me toward the haunting display. As I approached, the orbs flickered in unison, casting spectral shadows that danced on the forest floor. The whispers crescended into a haunting chorus, narrating a tale of a spectral ritual performed beneath the ancient tree. The orbs swayed in a ghostly dance, and the air hummed with an ominous resonance that seemed to vibrate through my very core. A sudden realization gripped me. The forest was alive with the spirits of the departed, bound to the twisted tree in a spectral communion. The orbs, each a vessel of trapped souls, pulsed with an otherworldly power that beckoned me to join the macabre gathering. A cold wind howled through the clearing, carrying with it the anguished cries of the spectral congregation. Panic seized me as the tree's branches reached out like skeletal hands, their ghostly fingers brushing against my skin. I stumbled backward, the forest closing in around me. With each step, the whispers faded, the mist dissipated, and the haunting glow of the orbs waned. I emerged from the forest, my heart racing, the moonlit night now devoid of the spectral enchantment that had gripped me. The ancient woods had revealed their spectral secret, and I was left with the lingering echo of a ghostly lament, a testament to the unseen forces that lingered within the heart of the haunted forest.